Good evening and a very warm welcome to Channel 1 News Hour. My name is Irene Muchuma on this day that the country kicked off the search for the Chief Justice. Top stories tonight. The next Chief Justice. Judicial Service Commission begins the quest with the first interviewee, High Court Judge Chitembwe Said Juma, vowing to fight corruption in the judiciary.
There may be no need for now for me to summon the education stakeholders to look afresh at the timetable. So the timetable remains as we had decided earlier.
No cause for alarm. Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha assures parents and learners the academic calendar is intact. Rising death toll. 2 more people succumbed to COVID-19 in the last 24 hours as the Ministry of Health says another 18 deaths were recorded on diverse dates. A warm welcome to this live broadcast on sign language interpretation. This evening we have Anne Wangeshi. High Court Judge Chitembwe Said Juma has vowed to fight corruption in the judiciary, build what his predecessors achieved and dispense justice within reasonable time to restore public confidence in the judiciary if appointed Chief Justice. Justice Chitembwe made the pledge when he appeared before the Judicial Service Commission in an interview for the post left vacant following the retirement of David Maraga in January. And as Ben Chumba reports, the 54-year-old judge is the first of 10 shortlisted candidates to face the panel, and he put forth a spirited pitch for his suitability. And at one point, he said during the interview he got emotional when the panel brought up a corruption scandal in which he was implicated and later acquitted by the courts.
The process of recruiting the next Chief Justice entered a crucial stage at the Supreme Court buildings in Nairobi, with face-to-face interviews of 10 shortlisted applicants. Each candidate will have their day before the Judicial Service panel, and the first to do so on Monday was Justice Said Juma Chitembwe.
Welcome to this interview, and thank you for being here.
Having served in the judiciary for over 12 years, Chitembwe said he is the right man to transform the judiciary.
I will try as much as possible, and this I'm putting it in bold, to reduce the backlog. This is where the problem is, because any Kenyan who files a case expects it to be heard and to be completed as the Constitution requires.
The 54-year-old Chitembwe was hard-pressed to explain how he will protect the independence of the judiciary and at the same time handle the myriad challenges bedeviling the institution, among them corruption, shortage of resources, and restoring public confidence in the judiciary.
My Lord, you are aware that JSC has recommended for appointment 41 judges to His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya. As you are aware, that process has not been completed. What would you do to ensure the exercise is completed? And are you up to the task?
Has anybody sat with the president and asked him, why are you not swearing this? Maybe he has his own reason. So if I'm told I can swear these 40 except 41, I will take it. I know people will say how the president of the Court of Appeal, the Supreme Court, was compromised. No, we want the work to move. Aren't you better off with the 20 of those judges sworn and coming to the judiciary to work? And then we'll deal with those ones who are not, who have not been sworn in. What is their problem?
The High Court judge found himself on the receiving end when the 9-member panel took him to task to explain a ruling he made where he sent free 24-year-old Martin Charo, who had been sentenced to 20 years in prison for having carnal knowledge of a 13-year-old. JSC Commissioner Justice David Majanja saying people understood his ruling to mean he supported defilement.
I've said everybody has his own interpretation of what you say. I believe I used very polite words, and I was picking from what the complainant said. If you go back, the complainant, I will be very honest, the proceedings before the magistrate court, that complainant said, I went to this man's house to have sex and I go home. That's what that lady said.
Between 2003 and 2009, Chitembwe, who hails from Kwale County, served as Corporation Secretary at the National Social Security Fund, NSSF, where he was charged and acquitted for embezzling 1.2 billion shillings. Chitembwe got emotional when he was asked how the experience would impact his role as the next Chief Justice.
People have to be prosecuted. That is the mandate of the DPP. But as you sit as a judicial officer, you should be able to sift out what has been brought for serving other purposes and what has been genuinely brought as a court case. And I'll give an example, like granting bail. I can't understand why a court will take a whole month to grant bail or deny bail. You'd rather even deny so that this party can go to another court.
On Tuesday, Professor Patricia Kameri Mbote of University of Nairobi School of Law will face the panel. Others shortlisted for the role are Lady Justice Martha Koome, Justice Marete Njagi, Philip Murko, Justice Nduma Nderi, Fred Ngatia, Justice William Ouko, Professor Wekesa Muni, and Alice Yano. Ben Chumba, reporting for Channel 1 News.
Also live on our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1 on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. On education matters, Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha said there are no immediate plans to alter the current education calendar. Magoha says the government remains confident that it will mitigate the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic to create safe spaces for learners. The Education Cabinet Secretary has, in the meantime, reiterated that there is no leakage of this year's national examination papers.
Speaking in Kiambu County while supervising ongoing Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education exams, the CS said the school calendar remains as had been decided last year.
Programming for the calendar year, I am leapfrogging forward and hoping that since it looks like the pandemic is starting to flatten, there may be no need for now for me to summon the education stakeholders to look afresh at the timetable. So the timetable remains as we had decided earlier in the year.
Magoha said a lot is being done to ensure that the country flattens the COVID-19 curve and stem the spread of the virus in learning institutions.
So far as the corona pandemic is concerned, we can only be grateful for God's grace and mercy because we have been dealing with a large number of students, over 752,000 of them, and there have been no major issues except for our children, the females who had issues either with pregnancy or delivery, and the exam has been delivered to them. We have not had any major issues so far.
He further stated that there is no leakage in this year's examinations. The CS, however, warned that any student found with a mobile phone within the exam centers shall face the full force of the law.
And I don't think there's anything to worry about. To continue to wish our children all the very best and to warn those who still think that they have a choice to try something, that there will be very severe consequences of whatever they may have to try.
Now, 2 more people have succumbed to COVID-19 in the last 24 hours, while another 18 deaths were recorded on diverse dates. The Ministry of Health says 5 of the reported deaths occurred in the last 1 month, while 13 others were recorded from health facility record audits. The Ministry of Health reports 486 more people have tested positive for COVID-19 from a sample size of 2,989 tested in the last 24 hours. According to the government, the positivity rate in the country stands at 16.3%, with cumulative positive cases being 146,156 from 1,564,827, a total of tests. Nairobi County has in the last 24 hours recorded 349 cases, with 92 from Langata area, 29 from Dagoretti North, 22 from Westlands, 18 from Embakasi West and Embakasi Central and Embakasi East, capping the top 5 most affected areas in the capital city at 16 cases each. Kiambu County has recorded 21 positive cases in the last 24 hours, while Kilifi has recorded 16 new cases. Nakuru has 11 new cases and Kwale has 5 new cases. The Ministry of Health has reported 20 COVID-19 related deaths in the recent past, with 2 of them occurring in the last 24 hours. A total of 1,645 patients are currently admitted in various health facilities nationally. 115 patients have recovered from the disease, bringing the total recoveries to 99,210. At the same time, the government says 487,278 people have been immunized with the AstraZeneca vaccine. This as a section of the elderly in Githunguri, Kiambu County, want the national government to increase the supply of vaccines in the region. A number of the senior citizens claim to have queued for an hour waiting to get the jab, but in vain. Those who turned up at the Githunguri Level 4 hospital were allegedly advised to come at a later date due to lack of the vaccines.
Haijakuwa rahisi, imekuwa ngumu ni kusukumana. Sababu sasa tulikuwa nini report tukaandikwa tukaitwa na kwa simu tukaambiwa tuje leo. Na ikiwa hujaandikwa report uje leo, huko ni kusukumana kwa sababu lazima uonyeshe message ile utumiwa na daktari.
Ningeomba tu waongeze hiyo system ndio watu waende haraka. Kwa maana wengine ni wakongwe na hii kisimama na hakuna kitu wanaangalia.
The debate on the division of revenue bill is set to come to a head in the Senate on Tuesday as lawmakers seek a middle ground on the appropriation of conditional grants to county governments. Senators are set to consider a ruling by the court that the grants cannot form part of the bill. Meanwhile, Garissa County Senator-elect Abdul Kadir Haji is set to be sworn into office on Tuesday.
The ever-contentious division of revenue bill has once again put the Senate on a tightrope after county bosses successfully petitioned the court over some sections of the bill. The High Court ruled that conditional grants cannot form part of the division of revenue bill. The court ruled that conditional and unconditional grants should be netted from the national government's share of revenue and not from overall revenues raised nationally. Senators are set to debate on whether to concur with the ruling. In the bill, counties have been allocated 370 billion shillings equitable share, up from 343 billion shillings. If passed, the bill will see counties receive the highest disbursement from the national government since the advent of devolution. Meanwhile, Abdul Kadir Haji is set to be sworn in as the next Garissa County Senator. Abdul Kadir will replace his late father, Yusuf Haji. Suleimanieri, Channel 1 News.
You're watching Channel 1 News Hour this night. We're taking a short break. We'll be right back with more news, making headlines locally and across the borders. Stay with us.
Je, umeomoka? Kama hujaomoka kwenye Quickly ndio mambo yote. Hapa tuko na fridge, kodi yake ni CM. Tuko na gas cooker, kodi yake ni CK. Tuko na TV, kodi yake ni TV. Tuko na simu aina ya Samsung ni SM, ama Oppo ni Oppo. My friend, mahali popote unanitazama, eka hizo kodi zake kisha utume kwa 4032353. 4032353. alafu utakuwa unaomoka na hizi bidhaa. Kumbuka kwenye Quickly ni bila bora zaidi kwa bei ya chini kwa chini.
Inspector General of Police Hilary Mutyambai plans are at an advanced stage to build a national police service hospital as part of the development and reforms agenda within the police force. According to Mutyambai, construction of the medical facility is expected to begin soon. This comes as cases of violence perpetrated by and among men in uniform are on the rise amid fears of rising psychosocial challenges.
The recent deaths of General Service Unit Officer Hudson Wasike and his wife Police Constable Pauline Wakasa, allegedly as a result of domestic violence, is one among many cases witnessed among officers in uniform in the recent past. Most of these cases have been linked to psychosocial challenges, an issue the National Police Service is seeking to address. While engaging Kenyans on Twitter through his official Engage the IG hashtag, Inspector General of Police Hilary Mutyambai, when asked about psychosocial support for police officers, responded that National Police Service has a dedicated service to handle the issues of mental health within the police service 24/7, adding that they are encouraging all police officers to take up the services. The IG further disclosing that there are ongoing plans as part of their development agenda on building a national police service hospital and that the construction is to begin soon. In the recent past, senior police officers have been engaged in trainings of how to help junior officers deal with trauma and mental health challenges. Kamche Menza for Channel 1 News.
20 people have sustained serious injuries after the vehicles they were traveling in collided head-on along the Malindi-Mombasa highway. The 6:30 a.m. accident is reported to have occurred at the same spot where 15 people died in another accident 5 days ago. Malindi Sub-County Police Commander John Kemboi says one of the vehicles had attempted to overtake another vehicle before the collision.
Days after 15 people lost their lives in a tragic road accident along the Malindi-Mombasa highway, 20 others are nursing injuries following another accident on the exact same spot.
Naweza sema kwanza hii barabara venye inatengenezwa, yani inafaa watengeneze kwa wakati unaofaa, kwa sababu hizo mabonde ndo imekuwa chanzo kikubwa kwa hizo ajali kufanyika.
Kilifi County Commissioner Kutsa Olaka said the 6:30 a.m. accident is being investigated to ascertain the real cause and avert future incidences. The latest incident has reignited calls on the need to expand the Malindi-Mombasa highway. A road contractor working in the area has also been criticized over alleged poor workmanship.
A man accused of impersonating a Kenya Power employee and defrauding a defendant of 21 million shillings has been released on a 3 million shillings cash bail or a bond of 5 million shillings. Josephat Amiti appeared before Magistrate Martha Mutuku and denied the charges.
In the case heard virtually, Josephat Amiti was charged that on diverse dates between January 5th, 2016 and March 5th, 2021 in Nairobi with intent to defraud, he obtained a sum of 21,266,718 shillings from Francis Gachanja on pretense he was in position to help him to sort out a court case with the Kenya Power Company. The accused was charged with another count of pretending to be an employee of Kenya Power and Lighting Company Limited to Francis Gachanja Mungai. He is said to have committed that offence on January 1st, 2016 and March 3rd, 2021 in Nairobi. Josephat denied both charges and was set free on condition of paying a 3 million shilling cash bail or a bond of 5 million shillings.
Muslim faithfuls will be marking the holy month of Ramadan for the second year in a row amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Imam Athman Nahaman of Masjid Ali Rashid, Luta, Buxton, Mombasa County, has implored upon Muslims to pray for one another, especially the faithfuls in the 5 counties currently under lockdown, and also extend a helping hand to the needy in the community. Ramadan is one of the 5 pillars of the Islam and lasts 29 to 30 days from one sighting of the crescent moon to the next.
Ramadan is the 9th month in the Islamic calendar, and it is the time when Muslims around the globe dedicate 30 days to prayer, fasting, charity and religious devotion. Imam Athman Aman of Masjid al-Rashid Luta, Buxton, Mombasa County in Mombasa says they'll make sure all the health protocols outlined by the government to prevent spread of COVID-19 are fully adhered to.
Miskiti imepanga mikakati ya aina gani kuhakikisha kwamba Waislamu wanapotangamana katika swala wataweza kujikinga na kuwa salama na kutoambukizana na maradhi ya COVID.
The cleric urged Muslims to fully cooperate with the management in mosques to ensure the safety of all congregants.
Kabla ya kuingia katika sehemu za mjumuiko na sehemu za ibada, kuna masala ya watu kuosha mikono, sanitizer. Na pili, kuna masala ya kwamba watu wavae barakoa ili watu wakiingia pale watu wasalimike na kuambukizana. Na tunapoingia katika mahali pa mjumuiko na ibada, katika kanuni za kisiha za kimataifa ni kwamba watu wawe na social distance.
Meanwhile, traders at the Mackinon Market in Mombasa Town are lamenting the bleak future of their businesses as the health pandemic continues to wreak economic havoc.
Mwaka jana ulitupata wakati tumeingiwa na curfew, alafu pia ukatuipata wakati tumeingiwa na lockdown. Ikatupelekea kufunga mabiashara yetu kama wafanyaji biashara wa Mackinon Market ambao hususan inaingiana na Old Town. Kwa hivyo mwaka huu pia tunaona pia hali ya biashara pia kama imeingia dosari kwamba uchumi uko chini sana. Wananchi wanalia, hakuna pesa na vitu vyenyewe vimeanza kupanda pia tangu jana.
Miaka 2 tumeenda chini. Ramadhani ile tulipita na Ramadhani hii. Kwa hivyo sasa hii mambo ya corona, maisha imeenda chini, mtu hawezi kununua kitu. Sasa hii kama ingekuwa Ramadhani zingine hapo ingekuwa jamu, hakuna mahali ya kupita nafasi. Kazi yenyewe tungebadilisha, tungeanza kuleta viazi, tomato, kila kitu ingebadilika. Lakini hatuwezi kununua vitu zingine.
For the second time in a row, Muslim faithfuls are marking the holy month of Ramadan, where communal prayers and feasting has been restricted by the government due to COVID-19 pandemic. Reporting for Channel 1 News from Mombasa County, I'm Michael Mondiga.
The late Kenya Broadcasting Corporation video editor Betty Barasa will be laid to rest on Wednesday at her home in Ololua in Ngong, Kajiado County. Barasa was accosted and brutally murdered in her home by unknown assailants. Her family has urged the government to expedite the probe into her killing and bring the culprits to book.
Tunapenda kutoa rizara za rambirambi kwetu na rambirambi zetu kwa familia hii ndugu mpendwa, baba wa familia na watoto, wazazi na marafiki na jamii yote na hata majirani ambao pia wameweza kuexpress kuwa na pia wanaomboleza. Tunawapatia pole. Sisi wote tumefiwa, sisi wote tumeondokewa na dada yetu ambayo tunamfahamu kwa njia moja ama ingine.
Mine is just to pray and urge the government to help us expedite the process of finding out and unraveling what really happened, because that day we met, nothing, neither any indications had been shown that there was something wrong with her.
Betty, may she rest in peace. And as my colleague has said, we are calling on the government to make a closure on this case, find out the culprits, so that a family can have closure on all this, and all the Kenyans can know really what happened.
With such happening within our neighborhood, we feel very scared and we don't know who will be the next target and who will be the next. So, pole sana to the family, and we are praying that God continues giving them strength during this difficult time.
We have settled on Wednesday 14th as the burial date, and this burial will be done here at Ololua in Ngong. The program will be very brief, again owing to the COVID protocols and the Ministry of Health requirements of the restrictions and the number of people required to attend. We shall have the body removed from Montezuma's mortuary on that Wednesday at 9 a.m., followed by a service at the same chapel, where we want to invite friends and relatives who will be within, of course limited to the numbers. That's the opportunity they will have possibly to view the body, and thereafter the body will be brought here in Ololua for a burial, which will be strictly a private function.
Many of those who knew Betty would eulogize the late as a kind soul. May her soul rest in eternal peace. In other news, a couple in Embu has become the talk of town after the lovers decided to renew their vows in church in a show of undying love 50 years after their marriage. 76-year-old Peterson Njeru and his wife Ruth Njeru, aged 74, say their love story has stood the test of time and is not about to be disrupted by the current global pandemic.
They say he who finds a wife finds a good thing. For 50 years, the couple have walked together, prayed together, and wrote one of the longest love stories there are. To mark the huge milestone, the couple has decided to renew their vows. The couple says despite the challenges presented by the global pandemic, there is so much to celebrate.
We are celebrating Golden Jubilee and also give thanks to God for keeping us alive all those years.
Tulikaa miaka 4 na yeye tukiwa marafiki na tukaendelea hivyo, nikaona tu ni mtu mzuri, tukaendelea na nikamaliza kile.
Meanwhile, a council of elders from Kisii and Nyamira counties have urged the local community to culturally disown a man accused of defiling his daughter.
Ni jambo mbaya, tumekuja kulikataa na kukataa na kukataa wale wanatenda kitu kama hii, tunawakataa kabisa kwa njia ya kienyeji.
Elsewhere, Kenya Power has decried increased cases of illegal power connections in Nyandarua County. The utility company says the growth of power connectivity in the county has given rise to unscrupulous electricians.
We want to ensure that we flush out all these illegal installations that are unsafe because they are not following our standards. They are unsafe to the users. they are unsafe to the criminals who are encroaching onto our lines and the general public.
This even as residents of Mali village in Kiganjo Thika called on the Kenya Power to move with speed and repair damaged power lines in the area.
Kama hata kuja hizi post zitaendelea kuanguka. Kwa hivyo tunasihi wakuja watengeneze, ni vizuri kutahadhari kabla hatari.
Meanwhile, the newly elected directors affiliated to Ndima Tea Factory in Kirinyaga County have pledged to digitize and calibrate all collection centers in the zone. The directors vow to ensure the provision of subsidized fertilizer that will increase tea yields.
Wakati tume-embrace mambo ya technology, ndio tuweze kupata information yote kutoka buying centers all the way to the headquarters.
And Malindi Resort Town stakeholders are appealing to Kilifi County government to upgrade drainage systems to prevent the town from flooding.
Ningeomba serikali itusaidie kwa njia yote, waeke madude ya kutupa taka ili watu wajue kutupa mataka ni sehemu moja na watu wa maduka wanajua ni sehemu moja ili kuweze kuwa na usafi katika environment yetu.
Finally, police in Mavoko, Machakos County have indefinitely shut down a lodge after the owner turned the premise to a bar in efforts to avert losses incurred owing to the current COVID-19 restrictions.
Kuna wafanyabiashara wanatumia nyumba za malazi kwa kuuzia watu pombe, watu wanauziwa pombe na wanaenda kwa hizo nyumba, kwa hizo rooms. Na unajua nyumba zinafaa, hizo nyumba zinafaa itumiwe kwa kawaida na wenye kusafiri. Na kwa hivyo nimesema wiki iliyopita niliweza pale Mlolongo karibu na Weybridge kufunga lodging moja, biashara moja ya aina hiyo.
Ruth Wamboi for Channel 1 News.
Across the borders, the Dukes of Cambridge and Sussex have paid tribute to their grandfather, the Duke of Edinburgh, in separate statements. Prince William described him as an extraordinary man, while Prince Harry said he was a man of service, honor, and great humor, and the legend of banter. Prince Philip died at Windsor Castle on Friday, aged 99.
Paying tribute to his grandfather, Prince Harry said Prince Philip was authentically himself, with a seriously sharp wit, and could hold the attention of any room due to his charm and also because you never knew what he might say next. Prince William said in a statement, his grandfather's century of life was defined by service to his country and Commonwealth, to his wife and Queen, and to his family. A ceremonial royal funeral, which will be televised, will be held for the Duke at St. George's Chapel in the grounds of Windsor Castle on 17th April. Meanwhile, Eritrean authorities have released 36 prisoners on bail. 14 of the released prisoners have been in detention for the past 4 years on Dahilik Island, while 22 others were arrested at the end of last month. The prisoners are all from Christian, evangelical, and Pentecostal denominations. In 2002, Eritrea introduced a new law that forbids all churches except for the Orthodox, Catholic, Lutheran denominations, and Sunni Islam. Meanwhile, China's top disease control official has said the efficacy of the country's COVID vaccines is low, in a rare admission of weakness. In a press conference, Gao Fu added that China was considering mixing vaccines as a way of boosting efficacy. More than 100 million people in China have received at least one shot of the vaccine. Beijing has insisted the jabs are effective and said in March that obtaining visas will be easier for foreigners who have received a Chinese vaccine.
You're watching Channel 1 News Hour. Many of you are watching from here in the country and across the borders. And you're saying you're tuned in to KBC Channel 1. You are home. We are taking a short break. We'll be back with more news making headlines in the world of business and sports. Stay with us.
Ili kupata skiza tune hii ya Isaiah 48 kwa simu yako bonyeza *811*817#.
Wakati mwingine unaweza kujipata umefinywa pande zote na unaona kama shida yako ni kubwa sana, kama hakuna nguvu ambazo zaweza kuitatua. Lakini ni vyema kujua kwamba kuna Mungu mwenye nguvu na ambaye hachoki kamwe. Isaia mlango wa 40 mstari wa 8 inasema, je, wewe hukujua? Hukusikia? Yeye Mungu wa milele, Bwana muumba miisho ya dunia, hazimii wala hachoki, akili zake hazichunguziki.
Ili kupata skiza tune hii bonyeza *811*817#. *811*817#. On the next episode of Ashoka,
we have to be more vigilant. We have to increase the number of soldiers, because this time if Nikita attacks us again, he is going to cause much more destruction.
Enemies are trying to climb the walls of the palace. What?
I need more arrows! Otherwise I can't stop them!
Wait! Did you know that he can stop the Greek army from conquering Patliputra?
Nichukulie kwa mfano ndani ya matatu. Yaani mtu mzima na miaka zake hizo miaka zote, mtu ajui kujua kuandika noti, NOT tu peke yake. Kusoma kwenu utasaidia sana.
Mimi nakusaidia na nini?
Nauliza, ni bwana?
Ndio.
Amendo.
Welcome back. Time for us to touch on business news. The value of goods exported by Kenya in 2020 increased 7.8% to 642 billion shillings. This is according to the latest trade performance report by the Kenya Export Promotion and Branding Agency that shows total imports reduced 8.7%, helping narrow the trade deficit to 1 trillion shillings. Uganda maintained its top export destination after importing 11.3% of Kenya's goods worth 72 billion shillings.
Tea and horticulture were Kenya's top exports, with tea worth 130 billion shillings exported last year, representing a 14.7% increase on the top export product. Horticulture was second, with exports worth 122 billion shipped out in 2020. Uganda maintained the top export destination status for Kenya after taking in goods worth 72 billion shillings, representing 11.3% increase. Pakistan was second, followed by the UK, the US and the Netherlands at number 5. Exports to China were worth 14.8 billion shillings, representing 2.3% of Kenya's total exports. Shipment of vegetable oils, cereal and products, tobacco products, edible preparations, and vegetable and fruit preparations also saw an uptick. On the other hand, the products whose exports decreased include textile and apparels, petroleum oils, beverages and spirits, and iron and steel products. Total imports reduced 8.7% to 1.65 trillion shillings. This helped reduce the balance of trade deficit by 16.8% to 1 trillion shillings in 2020, down from 1.2 trillion the previous year. The Kenya Export Promotion and Branding Agency is calling for deliberate and sustained efforts by all stakeholders to grow exports through product diversification, including value addition on the existing export products currently exported in raw or semi-processed forms. In addition, Kenya Export Promotion and Branding Agency says there is need to expand the export basket through identification and development of new products from the counties.
You now have the chance of influencing contents of the insurance policy after the National Treasury has invited you to forward your views to pstreasury01@gmail.com. The National Treasury is offering you up to Friday this week to submit your proposals on the draft insurance regulation policy. Among proposals in the draft document is creation of covers for emerging issues such as climate change and pandemics.
Insurance penetration in Kenya currently stands at 2.34%, way below the global average of 7.23%. The government is in the process of reviewing existing legal and regulatory framework geared towards increasing insurance uptake by creating an enabling environment to support development of new insurance products and distribution channels. National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukuri Atani says, quote, "The national insurance policy aims at addressing challenges that continue to hinder the development of the industry. These include low level of public awareness on insurance, low penetration rate, concentration of insurance in main urban areas, slow adoption of technology by the industry, limited underwriting capacity of the insurance industry, gaps in the legal and regulatory framework, and poor perception about the insurance industry." End of quote. If the draft insurance policy takes effect, underwriters would be required to come up with covers for emerging risks such as extreme events, cybercrime, pandemics, changes in policy, and universal health coverage. The draft policy calls for the widening of social insurance programs to mitigate risk by providing income support in the event of illness, disability, work injury, maternity, unemployment, old age, and death. The draft policy also seeks to expedite payment of claims to enhance public confidence in insurance, accountability in insurance companies, weeding out of fraudulent insurance agents, and protecting policyholders from exploitation. You have until this Friday to email your views to via pstreasury01@gmail.com. Benson Rioba reporting for Channel 1 Business.
A section of taxi hailing service providers are threatening to form a local rival app in efforts to force the industry adopt reduced commissions charged by apps on trips. The drivers and vehicle owners claim the commissions currently being charged by taxi apps are high when compared to what is proposed by the National Transport and Safety Authority regulations, a situation that they say has considerably reduced their earnings.
Players in the digital taxi business want legislators to expedite debate of the National Transport and Safety Authority 2019 regulations that were presented to the National Assembly 2 years ago. The draft regulations, among others, propose that digital taxi apps should not charge more than 15% commission on rides to protect investors' earnings. However, the drivers say most of the apps take up to 25% of trip charges as commission.
We have agreed that my ride commissions that shall be charged to our members, who are our drivers, shall not be more than 15% of the trip fare and shall be always discussed and agreed on by both parties.
The group, which is pushing for self-regulation, want pricing model for taxi hailing app to be approved by drivers and vehicle owners before implementation.
Pricing models shall always be discussed and agreed on between drivers and car owners and the company in the true spirit of business partnership.
Benson Rioba reporting for Channel 1 Business.
The county government of Uasin Gishu has embarked on a program of empowering both the youth and women through agribusiness and Inua Mama na Kuku egg incubators. More than 120 youth groups in the devolved units, comprising 4 from each of the 30 wards, have also been offered 85,000 crafted passion fruit seedlings, 5,000-litre water tank and 30 incubators.
Speaking during the launch, Uasin Gishu Governor Jackson Mandago urged residents to be development-oriented, noting that there is a need for them to understand the economic aspect of the program being rolled out by the devolved units.
When we want to expand this program, you understand the economic effect, the ripple effect itakuwa nayo katika kaunti.
Mandago challenged the youth to venture into value addition to create wealth and jobs. Each of the incubator under the Inua Mama na Kuku Egg Incubator program is able to hatch more than 500 eggs.
Mayai 500 na tuko na 30 na faranga moja tunauza 100. Kila mwezi mkifanya bidii tutakuwa na 1.5 million Kenya shillings.
Meanwhile, Family Bank has committed to disburse loans worth 500 million shillings to agribusinesses in selected 17 counties in the next 1 year in a deal with USAID Kenya investment mechanism. Family Bank targets to provide financing across dairy, horticulture, livestock and energy for agriculture value chains to venture in Homa Bay, Migori, Kisii, Kisumu, Siaya, Kakamega, Bungoma, Busia, Vihiga, Kitui, Makueni, Taita Taveta, Isiolo, Marsabit, Turkana, Garissa and Wajir counties. Family Bank CEO Rebecca Mbithi say agribusinesses face challenges accessing affordable credit and technical support. Hence the partnership which seeks to provide affordable credit and capacity building to the customer. Terry Njenga, Channel 1 Business.
Shares in South Korean auto battery maker SK Innovation Company Limited soared on Monday after it buried the hatchet with LG Energy Solution, freeing up both firms to expand in the United States, where electric cars have become a priority. This is after SK Innovation agreed to pay its rival, an LG Chem unit, $1.8 billion won to drop all litigation in a bitter trade secrets dispute. Here are the details of this and other stories from across the globe.
Shares of SK Innovation Company rose by 16.8%, while LG Chem shares rose by 4.1% on Monday after the South Korean battery maker agreed on a $1.8 billion dispute settlement over electric vehicle battery technology. LG Energy Solution, a wholly owned subsidiary of LG Chem, and SK Innovation also agreed on Sunday to drop all litigations in the United States and South Korea and not to sue each other for 10 years. After the court dispute had threatened the EV plans of Ford and Volkswagen, Ford said it was pleased that battery makers have settled their differences and that the agreement allowed Ford to focus on delivering EVs for retail and fleet customers. Meanwhile, Chinese tech firm Alibaba accepted a record penalty imposed by country's anti-monopoly regulator. Regulators slapped a $2.8 billion fine on Alibaba after a probe determined that it had abused its market position for years. The fine amounts to about 4% of the company's 2019 domestic revenue. Last month, China's State Administration for Market Regulations had fined 12 companies over 10 deals that violated anti-monopoly rules. Finally, Dubai is gearing up to host the World Expo a year after it was originally supposed to be held due to disruption caused by COVID-19 pandemic. Held every 5 years, Expo sees hundreds of countries using pavilion to show off the latest in architecture and technology. Before the pandemic forced the events to be postponed, organizers had expected 25 million visits during the course of 6-month international fair that is scheduled to run from 1st of October this year to 31st of March next year. The Director General of Expo 2020 Dubai Bureau says despite travel restrictions and lockdown in some countries, Expo 2020 is holding on the pre-COVID-19 pandemic visitors target. Terry Njenga, Channel 1 Business.
Thank you for staying with us. On to sports news. This year's WRC Safari Rally will for the first time feature 90 media points aimed at capturing scenic sections of the scenic route course. The safari will be run around Hills Gate, Soisambu, Elementaita, Sleeping Warrior, Malewa, Loldia, Kasarani and Kedong adjacent to Sopa Lodge, and will be televised live on KBC Channel 1 in June.
This year's WRC Safari Rally will, for the first time, feature 90 media points aimed at capturing scenic sections of the scenic route course. Route Liaison and Media Safety Officer Anwar Sidi has put together an elaborate media safety book and gone to great lengths looking for locations where the backdrop is representative of the fabled safari. The designated filming spots will be situated in spectacular points where international and local media will capture the picturesque lakeside scenery around Lake Naivasha and Soisambu Conservancy. Some of the key landmarks on the safari route will include Lake Elementaita, which is synonymous with flamingos, Lake Naivasha, a haven of hippos, and the Sleeping Warrior, a historic hill which has had one of the competitive stages renamed after it. The media spots will be situated in spectacular points in all stages of the event slated for June 24th to 27th. The safari will be run around Hell's Gate, Soisambu, Elementaita, Sleeping Warrior, Malewa, Loldia, Kasarani and Kedong adjacent to Sopa Lodge. The media spots will also be monitored by FIA safety officials and will be marked out. Sidi said the idea of multiple media points is a new concept in Kenya and designed with rally safety and photography in mind. Administrative checks will begin on Monday, June 21st in Naivasha and reconnaissance later that day and will continue until Wednesday, 23rd June. The WRC Safari Rally returns to its more traditional start in the heart of the capital city, Nairobi, after an absence of nearly 2 decades. This year's WRC Safari Rally will be televised live on KBC Channel 1.
Football Kenya Federation has appointed Charles Okere as the new head coach of the national women's football team, Harambee Starlets. The federation is also confident they will have put all measures in place to resume football activities in the country.
Football Kenya Federation has appointed Charles Okere as the new head coach of national women's football team Harambee Starlets. Okere will be assisted by Godfrey Oduor, who also serves under the same capacity at KCB, as well as Mildred Cheche, who also worked with the Bankers. Long-serving David Ouma has left his role at both Harambee Starlets as well as the federation. His first assignment will be on the 24th of this month, when the Starlets take on Zambia in an international friendly match in Lusaka. Meanwhile, the federation is also confident they are ready to have the FKF Premier League resumed. The top-tier league in the country was halted indefinitely alongside other disciplines by President Uhuru Kenyatta last month due to rising positive COVID-19 cases. However, FKF has asked the government to speed up the process of okaying the resumption of the top flight, insisting they will make sure all measures are put in place to curb the spread of the virus. Currently, the federation is vaccinating the league players and officials, with players who intend to skip the vaccination process not being allowed to play for their respective teams when the league resumes. 16 matches had already been played, with Tusker topping the 18-team table with 36 points. Elsewhere, FKF Premier League side Vihiga United has parted ways with their technical director Nicky Akama. The club confirmed the ending of the association was made necessary due to financial constraints. Vihiga United, who have registered 2 wins, 5 draws and 9 losses, are fighting to save their season after a poor start. They are currently 16th, just above Mathare United and Zukericho.
Morocco's Raja Casablanca stepped 1 foot into the quarterfinals of the CAF Confederations